Good evening and welcome along to the State of Scottish Football live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, wherever you may be tuning in. Welcome to the review of the roundup of the weekend's Scottish football action. Joining me tonight, after a couple of days of hosting, he is having a backseat. It's David Reid. How are you?
Very well, thanks, Glenn. I hope you're well as well.
Yes, well, I'm hoping I can live up to your expectations as host, giving you a back seat tonight. We will, of course, be joined by Colin Byers shortly to review the weekend's action, but we'll start with Rangers' victory over Motherwell yesterday, a 6-1 win for the reigning champions, capitalising very much on those around them failing to take the chances to put pressure on Rangers yesterday.
Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic performance and a good result from Rangers. I mean, Motherwell were 1-0 behind, and Rangers have been accustomed lately to being very slow starters, and it was the same again yesterday at Fir Park. I mean, Motherwell deserving in the lead. I mean, the opening quarter of an hour of that game wasn't really a game in which there was a lot of issues from neither side for that precise moment, for that precise matter. But once things got going and once Motherwell took the lead, I think that kind of gave Rangers a kick up the bum, so to speak, and then Rangers kind of responded in the correct manner after that. And once they got going, and Stephen O'Donnell got sent off, and that was obviously gutted for him. But for Motherwell supporting up the sulk in this result, I mean, it's a disappointing one. But Motherwell have been playing okay, but just haven't been getting the results. They were fantastic last week at Paradise, but they're just not replicating the performances of the early part of the season. And Rangers just showed their quality yesterday, because Rangers have been accustomed to, in the past, be winning games, but not exactly playing glorious football. But yesterday, they had a balance, they had a perfect balance in my book. They had a perfect balance of winning the game comfortably, also playing with a style yesterday as well.
Yeah, and I suppose for Motherwell, a bit of a tough patch, like you said there, no win in 5. And Colin, welcome along. Good of you to join us. How impressed were you by Fashion Sakala's performance yesterday for Rangers, grabbing his first professional hat-trick, obviously coming on as a sub against Aberdeen in midweek and being rewarded with a start? And that's really the perfect way to repay the faith that Steven Gerrard's shown in him.
If you want to start off your career, there's no sort of better way to do that than the Bargashella hat-trick on your first game. It was a phenomenal performance, not just by him, but by Rangers overall. I think I said here last week or a week before, I think they were winning games, but they still had 2 or 3 gears to go through. And I think against Motherwell, they certainly showed that their quality, that they can get goals throughout the squad as well, which I think is maybe something that we'll maybe come on to next. But I think that's where Celtic maybe will fall, because they didn't seem to have the goals as much as what Rangers seem to have. But no, it was a brilliant overall performance. One, I think that it was coming, and I just think unfortunately it was Motherwell that had to suffer it. But it was certainly a performance that it was definitely coming, and not overly surprised with the scoreline, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and Dave, an interesting point there from Colin about feeling that result was coming. Just how much do you think Rangers needed a result like that to give them confidence, especially, this week, looking ahead to Thursday night, they travel to Brøndby. That performance and result will give them loads of confidence going into that game.
Yeah, I don't think there was a pressure attached to Rangers yesterday after the Celtic result of the weekend. There was a pressure in its own right, don't get me wrong, but there was a pressure, and there was no as much pressure, just in the essence they understood that Celtic didn't win, and they knew that if they'd won at Fir Park yesterday, there would have been a bit of a gap between the two. So that was positive within itself. But no, it's a big win, and Rangers can go and kick on from this, because we've made it very much clear in the year that Rangers haven't hit the heights of last season. I don't think they will either, if I'm going to be brutally honest with you. But that's a big result, and if you're going to win leagues and cups, you need the grinder out 1-0s. You also need the big results, what they got at Fir Park yesterday as well.
Yeah, and I suppose we're seeing this season the league being very bunched up, Colin, and teams, hitting good patches of form and teams hitting bad patches of form. And I suppose Motherwell can find themselves in this poor run of form, as I said earlier there, 5 without a win. what now for Motherwell? Because the manner of the defeat must cause some concern for the home faithful yesterday.
Yeah, you mentioned no wins in 5, but they'd won the 4 previous to that as well. So it just kind of shows you how inconsistent not just Motherwell is, but some of the other teams as well. That's why the league is so compact. I think it will be somewhat a bit of a shock to them, and sort of the manner of the defeat as well. I think he alluded to the sending off just as I came on as well, which didn't help. But it's 3-1. I think the game was pretty much over anyway before that. So, but I think the alarm bells won't be ringing as yet. But I certainly think that maybe putting Alexander under a little bit of pressure at this early stage, and we talk about other managers being under pressure. But I certainly think that if they don't bounce back quickly after this, he may be one of those that'll be on a sugary peg, as it were.
Yeah, and a tough fixture coming up for them at the weekend is a trip to Tawdry now. And for those of you that are tuning in, as always, we look forward to seeing the comments and the interaction that you provide. And David, one of the comments coming in on the YouTube channel there is, will Fashion Sakal's hat-trick put any pressure on the likes of Alfredo Morelos there as starting striker? Do you think the performance of Fashion Sakala will give Gerrard that bit of selection headache?
Yeah, I think it will, but I think it's a welcome headache all the same, because Morelos has been firing on all cylinders. We've spoken a lot about how Gerrard's had to go and manage to play him the right way. And Sakala, just a performance like what he achieved yesterday was coming for a while now. Not that he's not started the season very well. It's just he needed to improve his goals. He needed to add goals to his game, and he did that yesterday fair and square with that hat-trick at Fir Park. And for Fashion Sakala, he needs to go and kick on now, but also for Alfredo Morelos, if he doesn't fire on all cylinders or start scoring more goals on a consistent basis for Rangers, he could be under pressure, because Gerrard will demand standards, and if Morelos isn't hitting those standards, he won't be in the scrap heap as such. Scrap heap's the wrong word, but he will be probably sitting on the bench. And an unhappy Alfredo Morelos isn't exactly a happy changing room, or potentially can't be a happy changing room. So Rangers need to get this consistently correct, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, and I suppose they'll be delighted to have another outlet for goals, given maybe Morelos' recent struggles. I know he has found the back of the net in the last couple of games, but they maybe seem to have a reliance on Kemar Roof. But Colin, would you be thinking that Motherwell will be hoping for a positive reaction to yesterday's defeat when they travel north to Aberdeen at the weekend?
I think that they would see that as almost as a must win. Try and stop the rot, at least get something out of the game. I know Aberdeen have kind of maybe slightly turned the corner, if you will. I know it's early stages still yet for Stephen Glass, but I think maybe going to Pittodrie in this form, you just never know. When it just didn't care how it would go, but they would probably see it as a game that they would dearly love to win. And as I said, if they can get anything out of it and just stop that kind of rot that they're on that run of sort of no wins in 5, and get something out of it, it's much needed, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I suppose we'll move on to one of the shock results of the weekend. There seemed to be a few in the Scottish Premiership, and it was the opportunity that Celtic missed to go to the top of the Scottish Premiership table with a 0-0 draw at home to Livingston. Dave, how shocked were you at that result coming through at full time?
Yeah, very shocked, because you're looking at them going, I think, we were predicting on Friday that we thought Celtic were going to win the game fairly comfortably. You wouldn't have been surprised why, because Livingston have been on the poor side of late, but Celtic have had a phenomenal goal difference of late. So massive disappointment for Celtic, especially with Obilai being sent off in the 92nd minute, and then Celtic going missing that penalty for Giacomakis, which was a very poor penalty within itself. A lot's been made of the fact that Celtic didn't really trouble the Livingston defence much, but I did some Y-Scout analysis this afternoon on Obilai, based on actually the Celtic State of Mind show, and they were touching upon how Oberlai wasn't really troubled as such. Well, I was looking at it, right, and Oberlai only had 50% in terms of duels that he won. He only won 50% of them, which was 5 out of 10. So it shows you that they weren't even troubling Livingston, and that just goes to show you how poor a performance it was from Saturday. Is it a reality check and a wake-up call? I think it is. And Celtic have been in command in domestic form, but they look bereft of their ideas and how to break down the well-drilled visitors. And Livingston were well-drilled, and full credit to Martindale's side because they have turned a corner and they've took advantage of the fact that Dundee won at the weekend, but they've took advantage of the fact that the teams below them are dropping points, and there'll be many more twists and turns to come in the Premiership season. And Celtic, in my honest opinion, missed Tom Rogic. It was keenly felt. Celtic continually went wide, and the deliveries hit a big wall almost as tower of team defence. So, and I've touched upon that Giacomakis penalty. So overall, very disappointed from Celtic.
Yeah, and Colin, that's an interesting point that Dave makes there. How much of a miss will Tom Rogic be for that Celtic midfield? He's out for 2 to 3 weeks with a hamstring injury. And the way he kind of cruised the midweek game against Hibs, it probably is right. They missed his influence in the middle of the park. I
think they missed him, and I also think Kyogo being on the bench as well would have been a big lift for Livy as well. Prior to kick-off, I think they've seen that team sheet and they would have been absolutely rubbing their hands at the fact that he wasn't playing. And this is where I think the difference between Rangers and Celtic will be is their depth in squad. I know that Ange has brought in a lot of players. Whether or not they can dig themselves games like this, I think this is perhaps a game that Rangers maybe would have won. They would have edged it. They would have found a way to win it. Obviously, the missed penalty is a huge bit of the game. It's a very, very, very poor penalty, as you said, Dave. It was an extremely bad penalty. I'm not a fan of the two-step run-up. I always think you should just run up and smash it. But yeah, I think the lack of Rogic and things like that will show that yes, they were on a good run. But listen, Livy were on a good run as well. I think they come into that game back at 2 wins and 1 draw out of their 3. So Martindale's got them well drilled, and everybody knows their roles and would have gone into that game full of confidence. And they would have been deceived by the fact that Kyogo wasn't there, no Tom Rogic. So I think they probably would have been quite happy that the likes of those two weren't playing.
Yeah, it's a good point. Livy make that 3 unbeaten away from home, including 2 wins at County and St Johnstone. So much for them struggling on grass. But Dave, you were touching on how well Livingston dealt with Celtic's threats from balls into the box. Celtic had 86% possession in this game, 16 shots, of which 2 were on target, and one of those shots was the very poor penalty coming in the 92nd minute. It's not what you expect from a Celtic side that have brushed aside teams like Dundee and St Mirren at home already this season. That must be so frustrating about how their lack of being clinical in that game on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hugely frustrating from Ange Postecoglou's side. And Celtic have been accustomed of late of killing teams off in either half. They've either been killing teams off in the first half and had the luxury could be comfortable in the second half, or get late goals to go and win games. And Saturday will be a huge wake-up call for Celtic. I mean, they've got a big game on Thursday night in Europe, and then Dens Park on Sunday will be another tough assignment for Ange Postecoglou's side. And I'll be honest by saying, I know this is away from the original point here, but Dundee will set up the same. So the potential repercussions could happen again. I'm not going to lie to you about that. And that penalty in question was Strajic's first save, which just goes to show you, and that's in the 92nd minute. So, but I think it shows where Livingston are at, because Livingston have had a poor start to the season, but Martindale or Livingston for that matter always seem to raise their game against Celtic, or indeed Rangers for that matter. They always seem to get an extra 10% into them when they play one of the Glasgow two. They've got a good belief in organisation, Livingston, and there'll be a frustration from Celtic's point that they couldn't cut that down, but also was there maybe a question mark raised about Celtic not maybe giving Livingston enough respect? And what I mean by that is that the players that were maybe the system that maybe played could it have been better? 100%. But where could it have been better is the £100 million question. They play a 4-3-3, which was good. You look at the team on paper and went, okay, it should be enough to go beat this Livingston side. I mean, Amy Canavan made a point on the show this afternoon, Celtic State of Mind, about Abada and should Mikey Johnstone have came in. I think it was Mikey Johnstone, but if I'm wrong, I apologise.
He did come on in the second half.
Yeah. I feel Mikey Johnstone should have started that game for Celtic at the weekend because he'd have got on to Livingston pretty early on and exposed them. But that was the problem for Celtic. They didn't expose Livingston enough, and ultimately it's cost them 2 points.
Yeah, maybe got an just going to say, he maybe got an eye on Thursday's game as well. And we just kind of keeping those guys fit and available for Thursday. He just didn't care, but I certainly think that his selections, because he didn't win, it was obviously going to be come under scrutiny. But I think he's maybe just had one eye on Thursday's game as well.
Yeah, it's a good point, Colin. And I suppose when the result doesn't go in your favour, those sort of issues become more obvious. The likes of you touched on there, resting Kyogo, and it's an interesting point that Dave makes about whether or not that was being kind of respectful or not to Livingston. But Livingston do need to be praised for the defensive shift that they put in, and fair enough, if that's the way they want to set up, it's up to the teams to go out and break them down, which Celtic unfortunately struggled to do and didn't manage to do. And just how much confidence do you think Livingston can take from this result, Colin?
I think, as I said, I think that they would have in this game on the run that they were on with some kind of confidence anyway. And I think it just means that they can be confident that they can go to places like Celtic and dig out a point, be disciplined. It might not be pretty, it might not be very good to watch, but they know their limitations and know where they're at. If they can get a point away from home to both sides, I think they'll be pretty happy. But on another day, you never know, that they might have even sneaked a win out of it as well. But I think they'll be hugely confident going on and going forward for the remainder of the pre-Christmas fixtures.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we saw a contentious penalty being awarded on the blue side of Glasgow on Wednesday night, and it was fair to say there was a contentious penalty decision awarded in this game when Obalai found himself being sent off for a wee slap across the back of the head for Kyogo Furuhashi. I'll just get both of your thoughts on the penalty incident. Dave, is it a penalty and red card for you?
Neither. Mark Stryjek was on Sports Scene on Saturday night, and he was commenting saying that I think it was his fellow teammates thought it was him that committed the offence. Yeah. And it was actually funny when I heard it, because there'd have been a lot of blame probably in that dressing room around Mark Stryjek before obviously Obalai that committed the offence. But on to your original point, Glenn, it wasn't a red card, it wasn't a penalty. And I think it's good that Stryjek saved that penalty, because it's obviously mutual respect in the sense of the incident that was given, because it wasn't a penalty and it wasn't a red. So mutual respect in the sense that Stryjek saved the penalty.
And Colin, for you, a red or a penalty?
Not a chance. It was a penalty, nor a red card. The argument is he's raised his hands. It's violent conduct, but listen, I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover. I'm not a fighter. But if you watch anybody boxing or MMA, things like that, if you're striking somebody face on, you always hit them in the face on this side. What he was doing was giving Kyogo a little tap in the back of the head, and he's going down like a sniper's hit him. It wasn't good. It wasn't a violent strike, if you like. So certainly it's definitely wasn't a penalty, and it was an extremely harsh red card. But we talk about Scottish referees again not getting decisions right. I was at the Peterhead game on Saturday. I thought the Alan Muir was horrendous there as well. So it doesn't matter who the referee is. I think they get these decisions mostly wrong, and I think that's what we speak about. Is VAR a good idea? Yeah, it probably is. But at the end of the day, these guys are the ones. I wouldn't be very confident that they would get those right either. But no, the penalty in the sense was neither. And it was a bit of a joke, to be honest.
Yeah, I suppose, although when you raise your hands inside the penalty area, you give the referee a decision to make. Now, on to the other team that had the opportunity to close the gap to Rangers at the weekend was undefeated Hearts as they travelled to Pittodrie. And Dave, we confidently all predicted on Friday's show that the home side would win, much to the bemusement of some of the Hearts fans tuning into the show. And I'm glad that it was a clean sweep and we were all proved to be correct. But a brilliant display from Aberdeen in ending Hearts' unbeaten start to the season.
Yeah, I think it's showing a different character to Aberdeen because there's been a massive disappointment with Hearts going 1-0 up, and I was interested to find out that Stephen Glass told the media after the game about wanting to change the system that Aberdeen wanted to implement in the changing room rather than do it on the pitch, and Hearts had a knowledge or acknowledgement of that happening. So fair play to Stephen Glass for changing things at half time instead of focusing things on the bench. Hearts, to their credit, took the lead through John Suter in the 45th minute. A good ball in, and John Suter did very well to scramble the ball home there. But Aberdeen's response.
It was a penalty. He didn't scramble the ball.
Penalty. Sorry, what I mean was they did very well in the lead up to get the penalty, and John Suter goes and tucks it away. So I've had a bit of an there. But Aberdeen responded in the correct manner, and Molly Watkins levelled on 49 minutes. Did very well. Good strike beyond the reach of Craig Gordon. And Lewis Ferguson, great ball, and it was Lewis Ferguson's goal I was thinking about with that header. Sorry, I completely got mixed up. It's Lewis Ferguson's header, great header from Ferguson, and just reward because Ferguson has done really well the last few weeks. And start off with, he was a lot more laid back under the Glass took large, but the change of system and the change in the team for Aberdeen has probably helped. I mean, we're starting to see a bit more of an understanding defensively with Bates, Brown and McCrory. McCrory got booked at the weekend, but we're starting to see a bit more of an understanding. Also, the midfield four, Campbell, Ferguson, McGeoch and Ojo. McGeoch, I thought, was really good at the weekend. And Hedges, Ramirez and Watkins led the front three in a 3-4-1-2 formation, which was good, and it was good to see Hedges back on the park, obviously, after his injury. I went to believe COVID struggles, although Glass didn't admit that. I got that through inside knowledge.
Ryan Hedges did admit that in a Red TV interview that he did. That's why he missed the Celtic game, was through a COVID case. But definitely highlighting the importance of his return to the squad. But Colin, on Hearts, they must be really disappointed at the manner of the way their unbeaten run came to an end in this game. Just the one shot on target from the penalty spot there, and just think that they're really missing Liam Boyce. Obviously missed the game midweek and out again on Saturday. Just don't look the same side when he's not playing.
Before we get accused of being Hearts bashing again, I think I think even though they were undefeated, I think for them it was too many draws. I think it's games that they could have won, and it's games that they've dropped points on as well. So yes, they were unbeaten going into that game, but I think disappointing run. If you know what I mean, I know they were unbeaten, but they probably still would have been felt they should have done it a little bit more. I think the manner of the defeat was probably one that was coming as well. In fact, in terms of they've gone ahead, they haven't held on to that lead, and then gone and given away another goal from a set piece as well. So I think there will be hugely the lack of firepower up front for Hearts will be a huge concern if you're a Hearts fan. Too reliant on one man, as we keep saying about other teams as well. And one man, and he's not playing, then you need the goals to come from somewhere else. if we were going to talk about them being potential candidates for the league title, I don't think that's going to be the case. I certainly don't think it was going to be the case before that anyway. I still think they were someone, but for them to be challenging even for a third place by the end of the season, they really need to find goals from somewhere. Defensively, every game, if you're going to concede every game and not score at the other end, it's liable to give you problems elsewhere down the line. But I think it was too many draws games that they could have won, and certainly this one they've taken the lead again and they haven't managed to hold on.
Yeah, and Dave, a point you made there in your summary of the game is a point I'm ready to highlight it in red tinted glasses when I record after this show, is the change that Stephen Glass made at half time, and the fact that he wanted to do it at half time to almost catch Hearts out, and it proved to be pivotal because it was one-way traffic in the second half, and Aberdeen, for as good a football as they've been playing this season, have often been, certainly I've been critical of the fact that we've not taken the chances when we've been on top, and Aberdeen did so, and then it only looked like one-way traffic after that. So just a bit of tactical awareness from Stephen Glass, for a man that's been under pressure for so long. He must be so glad to see that paying off.
Yeah, it's been a great week from Aberdeen, first and foremost. I mean, beat Hibs last week, got draw Ibrox on Wednesday, cheated in a draw, beg your pardon, and then beat Hearts at the weekend. And the fact that Hearts have came to Victoria and only had one shot on target, which was indeed that Johnstone penalty, just goes to show you how good a performance it was from this week at the weekend. And they did a lot more passes, did a lot more possession, and they got the system right. Dean Campbell, as I alluded to earlier on, has came in and did really well. He did a really good game at Ibrox on Wednesday night and did it well again on Saturday. And McGeek's been himself. Oyo, he did a really good start to the season and faltered a little bit, but he's came back and did really well in the midfield for Aberdeen. So a lot to be positive about for Stephen Glass, and he's starting to get a bit of an understanding now. And I want your opinion on this, going. Ramsey, McKenzie, despite them having a very positive start to the season, there's a change of system, maybe signal a naivety in their defensive ability.
Thanks. This is going to be a spoiler alert because that's my main topic point for tonight's episode on Red Tinted Glasses. But it's certainly, I don't know if it's certainly a naivety. It's maybe more down to their youthful inexperience in terms of their defensive aspect. I think it's no coincidence the fact that Aberdeen haven't conceded a goal from open play since both these players have been out the side. Just the 3 goals conceded, all being from set pieces, 2 penalties and a free kick. So there's possibly something in there, although I do think Ramsey still comes in to replace Ojo at wing back. I think he offers more all round. But Dean Campbell's definitely given Stephen Glass something to think about on the left-hand side. And another player, it's emerged today that the Blackburn are set to revive their interest in Ryan Hedges. Talk of a £100,000 bid being prepared for January. Colin, just how important will that be for Aberdeen to either rebuff that or look to tie Ryan Hedges down on a long-term contract?
I'll comment on that. I just want to pick up on Dave's point about the change in a format, change in tactics and things like that. I think that's key. I think that's something that we didn't see very often under Derek McInnes. I think he was very rigid. He stuck with the same style, the same formation, sometimes the same players. Even though the games weren't going his way, he was always expecting the players to do something for him, if you know what I mean. And he never really had a plan B as such. So it's good to see Stephen Glass, being able to come up with a plan B, be brave enough to change it, recognise that it's not happening. I think it's possibly it's been an extremely good week for him. He's obviously put bed to some of some of the guys that are wanting him gone, but I still think that he's a long way from being free of that. But yeah, Hedges has been good for Aberdeen since he's come back in again. Particularly good at the start of last season. 100,000. I don't think they should be taking that. I think they should be looking for more than that. But you just never know. In a marketplace like this, they might take it and obviously look to America to bring somebody else in to replace him.
Yeah, I suppose the problem is when he can leave free in the summer, 100,000 might be seen as good money, but I agree it's probably still a bit of a low figure. And Dave, just a final point on Hearts. As Colin probably rightly touched on, Hearts will have been disappointed the fact that some of these games in the unbeaten run were draws. You look at the Dundee game in particular, for me, as a standout is that how important is the game coming up at the weekend? We're away to come on to Dundee United, but it's Hearts v Dundee United at Tynecastle. Obviously, Hearts will be without Andy Halliday, who got sent off for a really poor time challenge on Lewis Ferguson. That must be a big game that Hearts will want to be looking to get back to winning ways at.
Yeah, 100%. And from a Scottish football persuasion, first and foremost, Glenn, I think we need to see either Hearts or Dundee United winning in this game. I don't think a draw would be suitable enough from a Scottish football point of view because I don't think, well, as much as the formality is probably going to be a two-horse race between the Glasgow two, we don't want to see that. We want to see Scottish football interesting, entertaining, and if we can get either team being consistent in our winning runs, then it's a huge positive for Scottish football. As for Hearts, they need to respond in the correct manner. That's a few disappointing results for them now, including the draws that you mentioned there. And if they can go and respond by beating Dundee United on Saturday, it'll be a welcome victory for Robbie Nielsen's side because, and it'll probably have a bit of meat to at the game at the weekend because Robbie Nielsen obviously managed Dundee United and the manner in which he left Dundee United probably would irk a few Dundee United fans still. So this is the possibility of being a meaty game. They won't publicly go and say that, but look at it. If I was a Dundee United fan, I'd be looking at this and saying Robbie Nielsen took advantage of our club. We need to make this count now. And very good question. I'm not sure who actually said this but who had the worst weekend? Tynecastle Tannoy man or Andy Halliday?
Well, it depends if Andy Halliday was the man behind the Tannoy or not. As I seen a joke made about that earlier. But no, it's very a good point you make there about the interest of Scottish football for this game, and it was why I kind of felt that I wanted Motherwell to win the game on Sunday, just to keep the top of the table tight, because Scottish football, we talked on this last week about how games aren't being shown on TV and the league's exciting. We want to keep the league as exciting for as long as possible because, I do kind of agree. I think this will end up turning into a two-horse race as much as we don't want it to be that case. But for as long as we can keep Scottish football exciting, the better. And as I said, we were going to come on to Dundee United. Dundee United found themselves on the end of a 1-0 defeat to St Johnstone. Colin, was this a bit of a shock result for you?
I think it was, considering the form of the two sides. I think if you were a betting one, I think you would have had your money on Dundee United to win it. I think again they've maybe made changes to the starting 11 and it hasn't worked for them. Like Paul was on the bench, Kieran Freeman was on the bench as well. So I think they may look at that and go, well, we've made the changes and it hasn't worked. But what I'd also say is that the performance of Xander Clark in the St Johnstone goal was phenomenal. He's always been there or thereabouts for a Scotland call-up. I think if he keeps putting in performances like that, he certainly should be within a shout for it again. But I think given that the performances and the run that St Johnstone had been on as well, I think it's a huge win for them. It certainly keeps them away from that bottom two as well, because they were in danger of getting sucked into that little battle between Ross County and Dundee as well, with the way that the results had gone. And they certainly hadn't started off the season particularly well. So this is a huge win for them, but one that I think Dundee United will bounce back from in their next game.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And Dave, I know you were at this game in particular, and Colin leads on to a point I want to make on this game. The Scotland squad is announced tomorrow by Steve Clarke, and Xander Clarke will have put in he put in a special performance that definitely should be at the forefront of Steve Clarke's mind. And you had one of the best seats in the house to watch that very special performance that you put in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were speaking about what 5 or 6 saves there, and it wasn't like it was poor efforts from the United players either. It was shots that were corners, top corners, some shots that were straight at him, but also some great reflexes in them saves as well. It's not just your ordinary everyday saves. I mean, it was saves that were excellent, and kudos to Xander Clarke for that. But Xander Clarke made it look like a basic day at work, basically. And fantastic performance. What does he need to do to get to Scotland squad is my $100 million question. I mean, Dundee United, I thought they got their team wrong. I thought Niskanen and Pollitt should have started. I think Tam Court looked at this and went and says, the way that St Johnstone have been playing, we could possibly have taken advantage. And fair play to Tam Court, he did play 2 homegrown players, but I do put it down Dundee United to a balance of poor finishing and good goalkeeping, predominantly the good goalkeeping. But yeah, fantastic result for St Johnstone, very much helped us with Xander Clarke. And Xander Clarke's done it over the years, over the last few years. Sorry, Mark Davis took over. Ibrox when he scored a header, Dens back in the Scottish Cup, which obviously helps St Johnstone go win that Scottish Cup. The weekend, he had a really good save in the semi-final against St Mirren as well in the Scottish Cup last year, and there was various other games which obviously helped St Johnstone do very, very well.
Yeah. I was just saying, I seen that comment coming up there. And we're just going to get there. Who would be our 3 goalkeepers for the Scotland squad that is being named tomorrow by Steve Clarke? A state of mind asking, would it be Kelly, Clarke, and Gordon now that McLaughlin's only played a handful of games? Colin, I'll come to you first. Who would be your 3 goalkeepers of choice? Just give me the 3 names.
I would go with Gordon, Clarke, and McLaughlin.
You wouldn't give Liam Kelly a space. That's fair enough. Dave, would you agree with Colin?
I would actually.
Yeah, as would I. Purely based on age for John McLaughlin. Nothing against Liam Kelly. I know he's maybe not been in the best of form for Motherwell in the last few games. Some of the goals he's conceded have been poor, but I think you need to be looking maybe towards the future of Scottish goalkeepers, and Liam Kelly's probably got the better opportunity. Now, Colin, I'm going to stick with you because on Friday's show, I said that if St Johnstone didn't win the game, Callum Davidson could maybe find himself under pressure, which I think Dave and Regan had touched on Thursday's show. So do you think the pressure has been lifted on Callum Davidson on the back of this victory?
I think if St Johnstone hadn't had the season they had last season, I think he certainly would be under pressure. Winning 2 trophies and then getting sacked 4 or 5 months later would be hugely disappointing for him. I think he's afforded the luxury of some time. I think, bear in mind, he was a manager last season and there was no fans. So this is his first season that he's managed to manage with fans, and so I think I think to say he's under pressure is slightly harsh. I think he's, as I said, he's afforded time to carry on the good work he did last season. I mentioned last week. I think that the highs of playing in Europe at the start of the season has affected the start of their season. I think that kind of form and the way that we're playing hasn't sort of carried on into the start of the season. So I think this may well be a turning point for the season, and I hope it is, because I think he does really well, and I think he could do well for St Johnstone and possibly even manage for a bigger team, shall I say, without being disrespectful to St Johnstone. But I think he could probably go higher. So I think, I think it's a big result for them, as I said, and I think it might be just the turning point. But I think to say that he's under pressure might be just a little bit premature.
Yeah, and Dave, I'm going to just get the final point on this game from you. As I said, you were at the game, covering the game. 19 shots for Dundee United over the course of the game. It's been a positive start to this season. Was Saturday, do they just need to put it down to being one of those days and, like we said, restock ahead of the weekend's game at Tynecastle?
It's a blip. I mean, as I said to you earlier on, I felt Tam Courts got wrong not starting Niskanen and Pollitt. I mean, Niskanen and Pollitt have been highly influential for Tam Courts' side for the so far this season. They came on in the second half and gave Dundee United a very different dynamic to their play. They have their attacking impetus, and Pollitt in particular was lucky not to score. And a lot's been made of the fact that could they have replaced Warren Shanklin in the forward areas. Nicky Clark's a very intelligent striker and done very well for himself under this Tam Court system. But also, I look at this in the sense that I think if they had a more renowned goal scorer than Nicky Clark, with all due respect to the striker, I think Dundee United would have actually hit the back of the net on Saturday. So it's a mixture of naivety in the attacking ranks, but also a mixture of good goalkeeping by Zander Clark, which ultimately got Johnstone all 3 points. So it's a case of re-evaluating for Dundee United and concentrating on the Tynecastle weekend.
Yeah. And we're going to move on to the final fixture of the weekend. And it was Dundee who claimed the 3 points in Paisley, a 1-0 victory for the Dens Park outfit. A massive 3 points given the manner of defeat on Wednesday night. Colin, the perfect reaction James McPake would have been looking for on the back of that result.
Yeah, we mentioned the Motherwell looking for a reaction after their thump, and Dundee just got the perfect result that they would have been looking for. Yes, it might have only been 1-0, but it's 3 points. It's 3 points that they duly really needed after that thumping by Ross County. And I think as well, if you talk about pressure on other managers, I think McPake probably would have been one that's feeling the pressure the most. I think it was a significant 3 points for them as well. And I think it just kind of alleviates the pressure on them slightly. And if you look at the team as well, and no Griffiths, no Cummins, both on the bench, I think maybe that's a telling factor as well. I think what he's looked at those two and that he's not getting what he believes he should be. He was brave enough to bench them both and not even bringing them off the bench either. So it just kind of shows you that perhaps he's going to stick with the guys like McMullen and Mullen and go for guys that he can trust and to get them out of this run that they've been on.
Yeah, absolutely. And Colin, just sticking with you as well, how important will that 3 points feel for Dundee, given the fact that Livingston have gone to Parkhead, picked up a point, St Johnstone at Tannadice picking up 3. They've managed to keep the ground on the teams above them, and obviously gain someone on Ross County after their game was called off.
Yeah, if they're sort of maybe struggling, but they're only 5 points behind Hibs for sitting in 5th. So it's a weird kind of way. But yeah, had they not gotten anything out of it, they would have been a lot further behind, especially Livingston getting the point, as you said, St Johnstone winning against Dundee United as well. So yeah, it just keeps everything just nice and tight. You mentioned about how tight it is at the top. Well, it's just as tight they're doing the league as well. So yeah, they would have been highly delighted to get that. Maybe slightly disappointed that the other results had coming in, that St Johnstone had won and Livy had gotten a point. But at the end of the day, they've gotten a win, and they just keeps that gap between themselves and County as well.
Yeah, and Dave, from a St Mirren point of view, they must be massively disappointed at this result. It's just one home win for the Buddies, and that's also going to be a concern for Jim Goodwin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one win in the last 8 league games, if I'm not mistaken, Glenn. Is that correct?
Oh, you're catching me out here, but I think it's 2 because it would be Aberdeen and County would be in there.
Oh, right, so 2.
They won 3 in a row, and then they've lost 3. I think it's what it is.
Right. Okay. But yeah, we touched upon the adaptation with Jamie McGrath on Friday, Glenn, and
We did.
I think without the injured McGrath, Goodwin's engine room lacks control. The Irishman will be gasping, his talisman returning. And yeah, a lot of issues for St Mirren. Yeah, they're a good side, and they've shown in our day that they can go and score goals. I mean, we showed it on Wednesday with Brophy scoring at Fir Park, but yeah, this is a disappointing one. Also, from a Dundee persuasion, if I may, Max Anderson was caught Saturday for Dundee. I did actually have some stats for you, but Wyscout was being a bit of a bummer just before we came on. But a lot of his stats are within the 90% range mark when it comes to passing and through balls and duels won and dribbles won, and it just goes to show the man he is. And Dundee will do very well to keep a hold of him in a few years, I'll say.
Yeah, and Colin made a good point, Dave, about the league being kind of congested, 5th down to 11th there, the 5 points that separate. The importance of that result for Dundee can't be ignored, but also from a St Mirren point of view, you've probably got ambitions, it's fair to say, of being a top 6 side. They'll look at that result on Saturday and feel disappointed that they haven't been able to kind of cement that sort of ambition ahead of the fixtures coming up this weekend for both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, St Mirren will look at the games against the so-called bottom 6 sides and go, if we want ambitious this fish in the top 6, we need to be beating these sides, we need to be beating the Dundees and the Counties. And Saturday's a massive disappointment for Jim Goodwin's side, and he needs to get it right. I mean, St Johnstone Saturday's another tough game. I was looking at St Mirren on Friday and going, to beat Dundee the weekend's potential springboard to start and get some good results on the board, and it's probably went the other way around now. And so St Johnstone's a massive game in terms of getting St Mirren's season back on track. St Mirren don't win that, it's a long 2 weeks for St Mirren in the aftermath of that because of the international break. So Jim Goodwin needs to get back to the drawing board as far as we're concerned to try and turn his predicament around.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. Now, we normally would be covering 6 Premiership games on a Monday to review the Premiership's action, but unfortunately one of the games was subject to a late call postponement due to positive COVID tests amongst the Hibernian squad. Since Mercer has been 6 positive cases in the Hibs playing and coaching staff. Colin, what was your thoughts when the statement came out that the game was postponed? Just think it was 3 hours before kickoff?
Yeah, it was around about sort of 12 o'clock, I think, the statement came out. If you're a Hibs fan, you're probably, making your way up the road and would have been obviously very disappointed to hear it. Getting called off so late, I don't know. I really don't know if there's any kind of consistency in terms of, how late they can call things off. And I know if they called it off on the Friday, fair enough, but I don't know if these results are coming through on the Saturday or what it is. But I know it's for everybody involved. It wasn't great, and now the fact that they've got them playing again on Wednesday this week is another sort of short notice. But we shouldn't be surprised with the SFA.
Yeah, and I suppose it's just a stark reminder that obviously the virus is still out there, and there's been reports today in the press from people saying that Hibs have not been following, or were not following the protocol at their hotel on the night before. Obviously that is just reports in the paper, nothing confirmed either way. But Dave, if it was to be the case that Hibs didn't follow certain protocols, what sort of punishment do you think would be administered to Hibernian?
Probably a fine at best, if I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I mean, there is repercussions to this, don't get me wrong, but I don't think chalking points off teams is the right way to go about this. I mean, we're getting back to a bit of normality now. Maybe a different kettle of fish or a different complexity for professional footballers, but because obviously they want to have a bit of normality in their lives as well after a difficult 18 months or so. But alongside that, they get paid to play football, and they also get paid to carry out the everyday requirements that becomes with being a professional footballer in these COVID times. And yeah, it's a massive worry if you're a Hibs player right now. And it's the last thing Jack Ross wants right now, because I mean they were in a barren run of results in recent times, and the saving grace maybe is that they didn't get beaten Saturday. So the saving grace from a Hibs point of view, but also there should be further worry moving forward, because if you look at the reports that are coming out today, it looks as although Hibs will be playing a young side on Wednesday night, and there'll be a lot of naivety in that Hibs side on Wednesday, just because, yeah, it'll be a good experience and a good opportunity for the Hibs youngsters to show what they're about. But I'm pretty sure the majority of these Hibs youngsters we've been playing, like, I'll give you an example, they've been playing Elgin City back in October in the Challenge Cup, so they won't have been used to this adult environment, which means that depending on the players that are unavailable, it could be a long night for Hibs. And there's reports we've been told by our fellow contributor Craig Leach that Gogic and Hanlon are definitely out in the looks, as although John Potter is the coach that's ruled out, but we don't want to obviously clarify that, because if it's inaccurate, we get a bad name for ourselves. So yeah,
you just decided to name the source just in case it is a bad report. So
yeah.
And Colin, you were wanting to make a point in there.
Yeah, I'm just gonna. I would disagree with the point about we should just find them. I think if they have gone with the protocols, which has resulted in the game, I think the point should be awarded to Ross County. I mean, if they're going to be, if they're going to be, if they're going to be going against the rules and regulations that have been set in place, so that we can all get on with our lives, and then just forever, go against them willy nilly, then why not just award the 3 points to County? I know Dundee wouldn't want me to be saying that, but I think you've got to set a precedent. We've seen a few occasions during the I was going to say Betfred Cup, but it's the Premier Sports Cup. Teams that weren't able to field a team because of COVID, the 3-0 win was awarded to the opposition. So why not do that in a league as well? As I said, if they have been found guilty of not adhering to the rules, which again we're only speculating at the moment, so we don't know if that is accurate or not. But if they are going to do that, then why not? But I think perhaps that's maybe the reason why that the game has been pushed to Wednesday night instead, before any sort of investigations get come out. So we'll wait and see. But I think if they are being going against the regulations, then I think we should be looking at making an example.
Yeah, and I'd say that I think that was my initial thought when the news broke. Obviously, quite a late call off was if there has been a break of rules or protocols, like we said. Obviously, just assuming at this moment in time, I had the same viewpoint as you, Colin, that we've seen it before already in pre-season, that it should have just been a 3-0 win to Ross County. Obviously, potentially dangerous precedent to set, but it's there for a reason. Those rules, as Dave rightly says, players being given those conditions to play football, then they should be able to stick to them.
I was just being, sorry, Glenn, I was just being a bit polite to Hibs there.
Well, it's just interesting. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I know there'll be Hibs fans tuning into this that will strongly disagree with me and Colin's viewpoint that County should be awarded the 3 points. But it is potentially maybe why the game is being rescheduled on Wednesday. At no thought for those travelling up, as Colin says. Now, we do only have 5 minutes left of the show tonight. Thank you to those of you that have been tuning in. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you are new to the channel. And we're going to end on a bit of a disappointing note, maybe not if you're a Dunfermline fan, as Peter Grant found himself relieved of his managerial duties from the Pars. Dave, were you surprised at the news?
Not after Saturday's 4-2 defeat to Arbroath, no. I mean, it was a case of when rather than if in the end. Dunfermline did very well to go 2-0 up at Gayfield Park on Saturday. The fact that they capitulated in the way they did was a huge disappointment for Dunfermline Athletic Football Club. But I must admit, what probably helped Grant get relieved of his duties in the end was the chance coming out of Gayfield Park when the Dunfermline Athletic team bus left. Alan Temple, the Courier's got a terrific video with regards to the footage that erupted when the Dunfermline team bus was leaving Gayfield Park at the weekend. So I had a little tune into that, and once I knew the light was on the wall for Grant. What Jake's moving forward, time will tell. But I'll let you. You're obviously the host tonight, Mr. Shooter, so I'll let you conclude.
Well, Colin, I was just going to say there's been some early front runners. Stuart Petrie obviously doing a great job at Montrose. John Robertson's also been linked to the job. Peter's a strange one because I think he's doing a good job at Montrose under no real expectation. I feel it's quite it would be a tough gig if he moved over to Dunfermline. Is there any names catching your eye for the job?
I think, funnily enough, we were speaking about Petrie on Saturday before the game about how well a good a job he was doing for Montrose. I know Dunfermline fans would like him to come back to Dunfermline, obviously being there for so long as a player and regarded as a bit of a legend at the club. Whether or not he would want to leave Montrose, go from a part-time club to then go full-time, it is a big risk for him. Bear in mind that not so long ago that he was taking Montrose from bottom of the League Two to where they are now. So yeah, he's done a really good job. His name does get bandied about quite a bit when jobs like this come about. I think the last one was Alloa. He was getting mentioned for it there as well. But I think the appointment of Peter Grant was obviously the wrong one. I think everybody knew that it was the wrong one, apart from the Dunfermline board for whatever reason. But I think what they will do now is they will have to bring in somebody like a John Robertson, a name who can get the fans excited again, but could also do a good job as well. And John Robertson's done well his previous jobs, but I think Petrie would be the fans' favourite. Whether or not that's one that's going to come to fruition, I don't know. I certainly don't think it would be, but I think the board would go for somebody who's got the experience and has done it before.
Yeah, and Dave, there, if you bring up the comment from A State of Mind stating that John Robertson's currently the 5-4 favourite with bookies, on the point that Colin makes, do Dunfermline should they, I should say, be in a place to go for someone as experienced as John Robertson? Yogi Hughes is another person that has obviously been linked with a job. Should they be looking to an experienced manager at this sort of level rather than someone like Petrie?
I think so, but I'm going to give you a soft plug here because I'm actually interviewing Robbo on Thursday night for the State of Mind YouTube channel because his book signing at Tynecastle Stadium on Thursday, so maybe the perfect opportunity to ask Robbo if he's taking a Dunfermline job or not. But yeah, if you're asking me, I'd like Yogi. I think Yogi would be a terrific appointment for Dunfermline. Attacking football, but also a defensive organisation about him as well. And one thing I would say about Petrie, and I don't know if you guys would agree with me here, Petrie and Dunfermline would have the possibility for Dunfermline to improve. I don't think it would be the correct decision for Petrie either, because there's not much difference between Dunfermline and Montrose at this precise moment in time, apart from the fact that Dunfermline are full-time by name.
Yeah, he's probably got a bit better job security where he is at Montrose. So that'll certainly be an interesting one to watch as the week rumbles on. Obviously, Dunfermline coming up against Morton at the weekend, a big game for both those clubs. And I'm sure through the rest of the week, obviously we are live through the week at 6 till 7, wherever you're tuning in, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. And that topic will be covered as the story develops. So just want to round off by saying to Dave and Colin, thanks very much for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
And to wherever you guys are watching, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and thank you all to those of you that have contributed via the comments section to tonight's show. It's been a pleasure to fill in for Dave in the host chair. I'm sure you'll be doing a great job throughout the rest of the week when you're back to your own hosting duties.
Oh, I can't wait for the seat to warm up, Glenn, that's for sure.
And thank you very much for watching.